at you crazy MFers. Jesus. Waiting outside in the cold. Over there is Chris Ryan. She has family in attendance.
Yeah.
The mother of dragons, Mallory Rubin.
Hello.
The one, the only Sean Fennessey. My name is Bill Simmons. We have 3 children of divorce up here, and Chris Ryan. We should have done Kramer versus Kramer or Marriage Story. Would that have been good?
That's the encore.
Marriage Story? All right,
Yeah.
we'll do that maybe later. Encore. We're here to talk Forrest Gump.
Classic DC movie.
Yeah.
You all feel like this is a DC movie? We kind of cheated.
This movie is about America. All right?
Yeah.
It's America.
We're going to relocate to Tuscaloosa at intermission.
This movie came out in 1994, and there was a backlash, then there was a front lash. I think we're like mid-lash now. Sean, complicated relationship with this movie. You're like me. Deep down, you love it.
I do. You and I, we have talked about this movie before, and
You're still getting over it.
I'm coping, for those of you who've heard that episode. Complicated for a variety of reasons, right? Really exciting, bold movie from a great filmmaker, but also came out the same year as like the movie that changed my life. Pulp Fiction was the movie that changed everything for me. But also, I watched Forrest Gump on a plane this week, and I was just bawling the whole time. I cried like 5 times. The movie just touches me.
CR?
I think that this is the weirdest, biggest movie ever made. Like, I think that there's a world in which this movie is The Room. You know, it's like the scion of the KKK becomes an SEC kick returner and Vietnam War hero, and then invests in Apple.
Mal, what's your relationship with this movie? Because you love a good cry.
Love a good cry. I watched this movie with my mom, who you'll be able to hear screaming throughout the evening. That's her.
Yes!
Watched it when it first came out, and then many times I would say it was a mainstay in our household. You know, I love the American myth. I love college football. I love joining some of my closest friends and colleagues on stage in front of 850 people to talk about young Forrest prematurely ejaculating into Jenny's
Don't step in my
roommate's
corner.
bathroom.
I have a whole bit. Come on.
Yeah.
Getting a blanket and everything. We're going to really do this.
Yeah.
I hope you guys like this kind of humor, because it's all that anyone has prepared tonight.
Premiere Magazine in 1994, of which I have a copy of, described this movie when it was coming out as a combination of being there meets Zelig in terms of endearment with a touch of World According to Garp. It's kind of accurate.
Sounds amazing.
We'll walk you through what happened, because I'm actually old enough to remember this. This movie comes out, and it becomes an absolute phenomenon. It's huge. But it's the same year as Pulp Fiction. And then it's the same year as Shawshank, which kind of creeps up and becomes this movie that everyone's like, hey man, I saw Shawshank, that movie changed my life, and it was kind of word of mouth. And by the time we got to the Oscars, Forrest Gump was favored to win everything, and people were like, fuck that movie. And that was the next 10 years of Forrest Gump, Sean.
Yeah, I think because it was framed as a movie made by and for baby boomers. And it's the world, it's America in the second half of the 20th century as seen through the eyes of people who were young when these events were happening, as opposed to if you were like me and you were 12 and you were like, I need to see a man stab Uma Thurman in the heart with a syringe now. That is America to me.
Pulp Fiction on the Rewatchables.
Do you remember the backlash, Chris?
Yeah, because Pulp Fiction was cool, and this was for squares, and this was like a double disc Motown boomer cathedral soundtrack, and Pulp Fiction was like all these incredible songs nobody had really heard before. But at the same time, over the course of time, when you get out of the context of it versus Shawshank or it versus Pulp Fiction, I think it does take on a life of its own.
I remember by like 1998, after I'd watched Shawshank and watched Andy and Red hug enough times, I really hated Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
I was like, how did this movie not win? This is the most important movie ever made, and Pulp Fiction's probably second. Right around 2004, 10-year anniversary, the internet has arrived at that point. And the internet basically exists for people to just get furious that Forrest Gump won all these awards over Pulp Fiction, Shawshank. And I think that was the peak of the backlash. And then something weird happens from that point on. It was on a lot, and it's like, you know what? This movie's really good. And then by 2014, it's like, God damn, why did Jenny have to die? And then by 2020, you're like, oh man, this is a great one.
Jenny just loved to party, though.
Wow. Who had 5 minutes for the first Romo impression from Chris?
Yeah. She's coming back, Jim. But I think we're now in the zone of this movie's back. 30 years later. It's the 30-year anniversary this year. I love this movie.
I think it's for the same reason that the movie worked in the first place, which is that I'm sentimental about watching Forrest Gump 30 years ago. And the movie is about being sentimental about being 18 or 25 or the first time you prematurely ejaculate in front of a woman. These are critical moments in a person's life. And I view Forrest Gump the same way.
Hanks. Mm-hmm. He has this run from 92 to 2000. League of Their Own, Sleepless in Seattle, Philadelphia, Forrest Gump, Apollo 13. Up-and-Comer 7. Not a lot of people realize he was in that. It's a porn movie. Oh, wait. My notes are wrong. Toy Story, That Thing You Do, Saving Private Ryan, You've Got Mail, Toy Story 2, The Green Mile, Castaway, and yet Sean thinks Tom Cruise had a better career.
No, that isn't what I said. What I said and what Chris backed me up on, and if you let me dangle here, you're fucked later, is I think Tom Cruise is the superlative movie star.
I still agree with this.
You agree with this, CR?
Yeah, I agree with it at the time. You
Fucking
guys were
traitor.
just locked in your Year of the Dragon fight when it was happening. I was like, yeah, Sean's right.
Mal, you get tie-breaking vote.
Harrison Ford.
So, Hanks, this is, I'm going to say, the peak of I'm going to play a character with something wrong with him and potentially win the Oscar, which was one of the reasons we had the backlash. This starts Daniel Day-Lewis, My Left Foot, and Hoffman, Rain Man. Two really good movies. Mm-hmm. Hanks and Gump. It starts to go sideways with Jodie Foster in Nell. Not sure if you guys have seen that movie. It's an atrocity. She grew up in the woods and has her own woods language.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Isn't Liam Neeson the doctor in that? He's like trying to
maybe
coax her into society.
Yeah, I wish he had killed her.
Mallory, will you do the rest of this pod in the Nell language?
In the Nell voice. Val Kilmer, At First Sight. Blind guy regains his sight and then loses it again, but doesn't lose the girl he loves, Mira Sorvino. That's bad. Sean Penn and I Am Sam. This is when the wheels really came off, leading to Tropic Thunder, Ben Stiller as Special Jack. And then we were done.
Yeah.
That was it. Until Emma Stone and Poor Things. But Hanks wins the Oscar over Morgan Freeman. How do we feel about this, Mel?
This is the most iconic performance of his career, right? Are you going to ride for Castaway?
So you're saying you're redoing the Oscars 30 years later. We just get to reset button it.
I don't think it's an indefensible or all that controversial win. Like, it's fine, right?
Sean, host of The Big Picture, doing a post-Oscars podcast on March 11th.
Could you imagine that episode?
Are you
me
apoplectic
crying
if
about
this
Pulp?
happens? Are you just losing it if this happens?
Yeah, we just canceled the pod in real
Tarantino
time.
not getting Best Director is, I think, much more glaring.
I never really thought that was unworthy. You think just because he had just previously won for Philadelphia that they didn't need to give him a second one? Have you guys seen Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump? The movie would be horrible without him.
So
Yeah.
that's where I landed as well. Tom Hanks is amazing in Forrest Gump. I thought Freeman's amazing in Shawshank. It's just one of those years.
What were the other nominees that year?
I have this, actually.
Travolta.
Well, your guy Nigel Hawthorne and Madison King George.
I had a poster of him on my wall in high school. Just big Nige, just hanging out, yeah.
Paul Newman in Nobody's Fool, a Sean favorite, and then John
film.
Travolta in Pulp Fiction. I think Hanks was amazing in this movie. I mean, he's the best part of this movie. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, he is literally the only part of this movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about Bear Bryant?
That's true.
Now, where do you stand on movies that stay with one character over a long period of time, and who would play you in the Mallory Rubin over a long period of time movie?
Oh, I mean, somebody who had a lot of gray hair at 32. That's going to be one of the prerequisites, I think. I love following a character across the course of their life. I'm looking forward to the Boyhood podcast that we get to do one day. Wonderful film, delightful. It's inextricable, right, from the overall structure of the film, which is like you're telling the story of American history through the story of this person's life. It is like every other aspect of the film, the genius and the absolute befuddlement entwined inextricably, because like Sally Field is playing Tom Hanks's mother and is 10 years older than him, and that doesn't make any sense. And also Tom Hanks looks the exact same age over literal decades of this film. They made John Lennon's mouth move on the Nick Cavett show, but didn't think, like, what if we added a little gray around the temples?
Right. I always thought, so like one of the things that, I think the reason why the movie ultimately works though is because they're making this movie from his perspective, right? Like they're essentially making a movie that has like a childlike innocence to it. Like this has been discussed in many of the 30th anniversary pieces you were referring to, but like this idea that when he goes to New York, all he sees are taxi cabs. So like on the Avenue, it's just like hundreds and hundreds of taxi cabs, even though probably in reality not that many cabs, right? But it's like his mind sees it that way and he does a great job of reflecting that in the performance.
You're really getting into unanswerable questions, but is Forrest Gump completely deluded and none of this stuff happened to him is...
Yeah.
I mean...
We're going there now?
I mean...
Jesus.
You know, it's so convenient that he met every sitting president of his life, was a star collegiate athlete, a war hero, a champion athlete who went to China. How convenient for Forrest.
Do you guys think Top Gun Maverick ended when he died and they just kept going? Because that's the best one of these theories. Yeah. He just dies in the beginning and then everything else is a fever
I break
dream.
that theory out about some movie and Bill's like, that's a great call, Chris.
Yeah. Was that yours or was that online?
I think that was me communicating the conventional wisdom of online. I can't take credit for that.
You should
Did you
take
come
credit
up with
for
Grassy
it.
Knoll? Was the Grassy Knoll your thing? Was that your theory?
It's me aggregating from a lot of my own sources, but yeah.
So the movies that move with one character over a long stretch of time, this is probably the most famous one, but World According to Garp, Walk the Line. I don't think gets enough credit for that. Would you count Goodfellas?
Sure, yeah. It's 20 years.
Boyhood, and then Benjamin Button going backwards.
Yeah.
But basically the same
Elvis?
premise. What's interesting, because I had the magazines
Mama.
from back then. What happened?
Elvis, and then I did the Austin Butler Mama, just for Sean.
This was marketed as, holy shit, you're not going to believe the technology.
Yeah.
That was like the whole
remember.
premiere magazine. Yeah. It's 2 pages of Zemeckis just being like, man, we went for this. You're not going to believe the stuff we did. He says, one of the quotes is, I think if David Lean was making movies right now, he'd say, where has this been my whole life? It was an actual Zemeckis quote.
Zemeckis said that about his own movie?
Yeah. He was so fired up about the technology. He's like, we have Hanks with John Lennon. They're on the same screen.
David Lean was filming the sun rising over the desert in Lawrence of Arabia. It was like, God, if only Gump was here. Running across this skyline.
That's what Zemeckis says that. He says they were waiting for days for the right sunset. And he's like, we could just make the sunset right now.
That was a catastrophic choice for filmmaking going forward.
Yeah. Well, it was, I mean, do you want to do a quick Zemeckis thing? This is one of the things he loves, is being on the cutting edge of things.
You can tell this is one of the reasons why he wanted to make this movie. Because first couple of movies of his career are just very standard stories. I Want to Hold Your Hand, about young girls who love the Beatles, used cars, about used car salesmen. And then all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute, what if we went back to the future? And I figured out how to make the future look like the future. And then what if I did Who Framed Roger Rabbit? And I put cartoons in a movie with real people. And then he's constantly now, and he spent the last 20 years, only thinking about the technological excitement and the breakthroughs that he can make in filmmaking. And you can tell that a big reason why he wanted to do this was not just to do this picaresque story over a history of time and, his generation, but also to make John Lennon's mouth move on the Dick Cavett show, that's actually interesting to him, to recreate what it would have been like to meet John Kennedy or all these other things that we see in the movie.
And then a couple of years ago, he was like, what if Denzel Washington smoked a banana boat and turned a plane upside down?
Riverboat coming. This won Best Picture, and he won Best Director. So this was the biggest quote-unquote achievement of his career. But Zemeckis had... He did well for himself.
Yeah, I mean, he made Back to the Future, so the Oscars can eat shit. I mean, come on.
Here are all the things Forrest intersects with during this movie. The Ku Klux Klan, Elvis, Bear Bryant, George Wallace and Alabama Integration, JFK, Playboy Magazine, LBJ, Abby Hoffman, Black Panthers, 1970s China, John Lennon and Dick Cavett, Nixon and Watergate, Apple, Nike, Shit Happens, Have a Nice Day, and maybe AIDS.
What do you think is the
are.
most culturally significant contribution he made to our society over the course of this film?
Oh,
Gump?
good question.
Yeah.
What's your answer, Mal?
I think it's teaching Elvis to dance.
Oh.
He had the most hands-on, that was him. It wasn't just oh, there's Nixon. It was no, I taught Elvis how to do the hound dog,
I think, and I think this is an appropriate room for this answer, he deserves credit for the birth of podcasting. Because ultimately, this is a movie about one person talking for a really long time to a bunch of people who are just trying to get through a lonely commute.
Do you think...
That's what this movie is. You would not have a career without Forrest.
This and Pump Up the Volume, those were the two.
Do you think Coward was inspired by Gump?
Yes.
I can just solo this. I got it. Jordan Love. Let's go.
That's moving guest host. What do you think, Sean?
He was really good at assembling and disassembling that gun.
Yeah.
That was kind of amazing. They were like, you're going to be a general one day. It's because he's good at assembling a gun? That was impressive.
I thought Amazing Shrimp Boat Captain. I thought that was his most impressive thing. All the other boats were destroyed. Gump's out there just sailing around. Most DC thing about this movie is obviously the Capitol and the monument and the White House, which we get all in a row, and then we get the big scene in the water. That's why I feel like this is a Washington movie, even though it's not set in Washington, because that's probably the best use of that entire environment I've seen in a movie. Right? Would you say that maybe what's the Clint Eastwood movie that we did?
In the Line of Fire.
Fire.
I like when Mitch McDeere gets completely bulldozed by the FBI at the same
in the
location.
Firm? Yeah.
It's your phones are tapped. Your life as you know it is over.
What about when Jim Garrison goes for a walk with
Oh, yeah,
Mr.
Donald
X
Trump.
Oh, that's
in
a good one.
JFK?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
explains how this entire country is built on a lie?
Not untrue. The backstory, this was a 1986 novel by Winston Groom, and they adapted it, and they believed, the people that were working on the script believed that it was actually really should be about Forrest and Jenny and their spiritual journey, and that's what they did. So it won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor. I can't believe this, but our girl Robin Wright, not nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Pretty tough.
Yeah. Yikes. $55 million budget, made $678 million worldwide. This is the crazy stat, though. It stayed in the theater for 42 weeks, Sean. 42 weeks. That's longer than any sports season.
Yeah. They did the thing where they released it in July. It ran for 4 months. And then the Oscar nominations came out, and it was nominated for 13 Academy Awards, and they were like, we'll put this back in theaters. And then everybody was like, absolutely. And it was a top 5 movie in America after they re-released it 7 months after it came out.
Also, one of those movies that you could see on any family vacation, and every member of your family could go, right?
Oh, yeah.
Grandma, little 6-year-old who's
Yeah.
probably bouncing around.
Couple of
getting
scenes that
M&Ms.
you were like, you're too young for this.
Six-year-old, here's
Yeah.
what Forrest did in Jenny's roommate's bathroom.
Yeah.
It's natural, it happens.
If you're 6, you probably don't understand what happened in that scene, and if you do understand, watch out. Roger Ebert, 4 stars, called it a magical movie, and he said Tom Hanks may be the only actor who could have played the role. I can't think of anyone else's Gump. Our guy Raj. Raj got an ovation last night in Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
We brought him up and the crowd just applauded because it was a home game for Raj. He's been dead for 9 years.
What's your problem, DC?
Yeah.
What
We're
happened
talking
to you
about
guys?
Roger Ebert here.
All right, so if you've never heard the Rewatchables, we do categories and we break them down and we dive into the movie. This first one is most rewatchable scene. And here are my candidates. The first one, Forrest meets Jenny on the bus. And they hang out
As children.
as little Forrest.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he gets bullied. And she says, "Run, Forrest!" And all of a sudden, he's on Alabama playing football. And we are fucking off.
There's a couple things that happen in between
Barely
those moments.
Yeah.
Honestly, barely any. Absolutely incredible moment. I love when they cut to him on the bench. Like when they choose to go back to the modern timeline, right? The way that he turns and side smirks and says, "I could run like the wind." And you get to see like the actual genuine pride that he takes in his achievements. And it's lovely. It is.
I wish we had Ben Solak here from The Ringer to break down Gump as a kick returner.
Yeah.
It'd be amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gump was a dude.
Yeah.
Good golly!
Yeah. What was his 40 time? Like 3.9?
Oh my God.
I don't think
Yeah.
Solak would be impressed with Gump's combine results at all.
You don't think so?
kind of
No,
a
he's
straight
just a
line runner.
north-south
Yeah.
runner.
Also,
Yeah.
if you're grading those kids riding their bikes, like they suck at riding bikes. They couldn't
Yeah.
catch that
It's
kid.
true.
Yeah.
Gump, tough Wonderlic test for Gump, unfortunately, I think. Next scene. Forrest visits Jenny in college.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
You gonna do some physical comedy here? What can we expect?
You ever been with a girl, Forrest? We get the premature e-gumpulation.
Oh, good. You've been saving
I
that.
wrote that backstage.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've imitated this in real
Can
life.
you take me back to 1994?
Nothing is funnier to me other than Buffalo Bill in the dungeon. Buffalo Bill's the
1994,
only
you're
one that's
sitting in the
funnier.
movie theater, you see this for this first time, I'll do this Charlie Rosa, and you say what? You think what?
I just laughing my ass off, like, oh my God. We get to relive this and redo it and imitate it for the rest of my
comes home
life.
when they pan down to the roommate's face. It is the
Yeah.
most psychotic
Yes.
thing in American film
Incredible.
history.
First of all, when he sees her in the bra and he kind of does the double take,
Yeah.
like he's looking at like a snake that has just been unleashed from a cage, and then she puts the hand on, and he just the fastest
Instant.
anyone's ever come
Instant.
ever,
A light nipple graze. That was all it took.
and just destroys the blanket. I can't even imagine what happened to that blanket.
I can't believe I'm sitting this close to you again.
His facial expressions in that scene are historic.
That's how he wins the Oscar.
Yeah.
Who's the better premature ejaculation?
Unbelievable.
That should have been the Oscar clip when they're like in Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
For Forrest Gump.
It's like Morgan Freeman sanding a boat.
We see multiple sequences of him returning kicks for Bear Bryant's championship Crimson Tide teams, earning his way to a spot on the All-American team. No labored breathing that even touches what we see when he is sitting on Jenny's bed saying, "I'm sorry." The best part, quietly though, is the muttered, "I'm dizzy.
Yeah.
I'm dizzy."
And then she says, "Bet that never happened in home ec."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great line. Jenny Gump. More rewatchable scenes. The Vietnam battle scene is really good. It's
great.
They filmed it in
great.
South Carolina. They put like 20 palmetto trees in some plantation and just went to work, and it actually looks like you're in Vietnam. It's a really good scene. I don't know, CR, you're a Vietnam guy.
I am a big non guy. The whole torture
tours,
sequence
right?
is great. Yeah, that's right. I just
you
kept
sir.
going back more. He's just incredible at set pieces. So like this, the flight crash, Castaway crash, obviously. There's just like he's just incredible at like moving these major pieces.
So that's
around.
2 flight references. So
Yes.
far.
Yeah.
Two.
That's right.
Two.
Saves 4 people. There's a couple great moments in this scene, like Lieutenant Dan telling him to leave him.
Yeah.
Leave me
Yeah.
here. And then him going back to find Bubba.
Devastating.
And then realizing is that the first time you cry in this movie?
Ooh.
How many tear jerks were there in this one?
That's a loaded statement.
Hey.
Yeah, maybe I'll rephrase.
Are we back to
Mel, how many times did you cry
Are we
during
back
this
to
movie?
Forrest and Jenny's dorm room?
Did you
All right,
crack
God,
many
that was
tears
quick.
while watching?
Yeah. It's a sad and emotional movie. I think most of the tears come at the end, but it's hard not to get a little choked up when Bubba is dying and saying that he just wants to go home. And
Why
it's
did this
beautiful.
happen?
I think what's interesting about the Vietnam scene, though, is like, it's not even really a scene, right? The whole Vietnam sequence is wonderful. They meet Lieutenant Dan. He's holding a roll of toilet paper the entire time, talking about how, like, the one thing
Right.
you need to know is about your socks. And the movie is, like, really more a collection of vignettes than scenes,
It's
right?
like big montage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one, monument protest scene.
Yes.
Abby Hoffman. Would you have gone bigger actor for the Abby Hoffman cameo there?
I love that guy. I don't know
Okay.
what that
Who
guy's
is that
name is,
guy?
but when he's like, Forrest Gump, that's like one of the greatest.
Right on, man.
My brother's here tonight. My brother and I have said that to each other 100 times.
CR, what are the odds Forrest's speech was actually good if the mic had been on?
Oh no, he was definitely giving out like same game parlays.
Yeah.
Today I like Tulane or Louisiana Tech. Take the points. That's all I gotta say about that.
And then all of a sudden, Forrest! And
It's a
there's
great movie.
Jenny Gump. That's one of the best scenes of the 90s. It's
incredible.
So good.
It's really
Still
great.
gets me.
Has anybody here ever tried to recreate that on a date? Do people get a little jumpy about stuff on like in that area? I know now,
Yeah.
but like you could try it.
Try it.
Yeah.
Just
Tell them Chris told you it was fine.
Do you count as that scene, Forrest and beating the hell out of the boyfriend at the Black Panther party, or is that a different
that's
scene?
my favorite character in this movie.
Wesley?
That guy? Hipster doofus guy? Next one, just a quickie. The hurricane scene, just Sinise cooking on the top of the boat, screaming at the storm. Great
Remarkable.
stuff. Forrest's mom dies, leading to the following things happen. Forrest gets rich on Apple stock.
Yeah.
Forrest becomes a gardener. Jenny shows up. They go to her old house. She throws rocks at it. She turns down Forrest as a husband, leading to one of his best monologues. Why don't you love me, Jenny? I'm not a smart man, but I know what love is. I'm not going to do the Forrest voice for you guys. Jenny's response to have sex with Forrest and then leave early the next morning in a cab. One of the most evil acts ever perpetrated
Terrible.
by a human being
Yeah.
in a movie that we've ever seen. I'm including Saw movies.
It's this.
I'm including
It's cruel.
What's in the box?
name a
Yeah.
Seven.
Yeah.
Is this worse than Seven?
Honestly, yes. Yeah. At least he gets his revenge in Seven. Forrest
Right.
is just like, great, I have a kid now. Like that's amazing.
Every time he looks at the Nike Cortez that he's wearing, he's like, was I that bad at sex? It's devastating.
Well, Mal, I mean, since you're here,
Already? Wow. This is
there's two
earlier in the show.
directions here.
Yeah.
Either, hit the premature thing was another issue,
Yeah.
or Forrest was amazing
Yes.
and rocked her world, and that's why she had to get away.
Yeah.
No?
Well, I think she had to get away because, like Jamie Lannister, she doesn't believe that she deserves to be happy, which is actually like a deeply tragic tale.
Right.
I do believe that Forrest was a very deft and capable lovemaker by that point. I do. Yes. Are you familiar with the show The Good Place? There's a great moment where, spoilers for Bill has spoiled every movie that's ever been made, it's fine. When Tahani is describing having sex with Jason and basically is like, he has no self-awareness and is thus extremely good at sex. So I think Forrest knew what he needed to improve, right? And was ready.
I forgot to thank Honda for sponsoring tonight's podcast. Thank you to Honda. Really appreciate it.
I can't believe this is my career.
Chris, have you ever had a traumatic post-sex experience that led to you just sitting in different rooms of the house in complete silence?
With
like
a
Forrest
glass
does?
of
No,
milk?
but you know what? The night is young. You know?
Two more scenes. Forrest meets Forrest Jr., played by Haley Joel Osment.
Wonderful.
Incredible casting. Man, it's hard not to get choked up this scene. You got a daddy named Forrest too? Yours, Daddy Forrest. And then Hanks does the, oh no.
When he like rubs his chest when he's asking, is he smart?
Is he smart? And then she's like, top of his class. Meanwhile, he's like, in pre-K.
It's more like at the
top of his class.
finger painting stage, I think. Yeah.
Put together two dominoes.
Like this kid.
Yeah.
He was tearing through Curious George.
It's true.
Yeah.
He's not a complete dumbass
Not
like you,
a-
Forrest.
Right. And then she does the will you marry me, Forrest? And she says, okay. And we're off. We're at a wedding. Lieutenant Dan shows up with the magic legs. Last scene. I mean, we just got to commemorate it. I wouldn't say it's necessarily rewatchable, but Jenny dies and Forrest gives the speech is one of the saddest scenes.
Yeah.
This is Waterworks for you, Mel.
Oh my God. Well, and especially because like the whole conceit and framework of the movie is that he's telling the story of his life to strangers on the bench because he just wants to reach Jenny. And then he does. And how does he have to continue the story? How do we hear the end of it? He's standing at her tombstone. And then the birds. Bill, they flutter above their tree. She just wanted to turn into a bird and fly away.
Sean, your heart is basically black. Did this, you're a Jets fan. Did this bring any emotion out of you?
When I was watching the movie yesterday on the plane, during the scene, lady turned to me, sitting in the seat next to me, and was like, "Are you okay?" Because I was distraught. And I'm hideous to look at, and just red face and got tears. But there's a real I'm a parent now thing about this because he's talking about little Forrest to Jenny, and honestly, really tough scene to not make awful. Again, like Hanks selling against a tombstone. I mean, that's really who he's acting against in this scene. And you're with him the whole time. You're like, this is exactly how we're supposed to be feeling in this moment, which I think in the hands of almost any other actor just wouldn't work.
It's great acting. It's great writing because like he can't all of a sudden be more profound than he is, right? So he has to kind of still stay in the zone, but it has that extra layer of like almost poetry to it.
I have a serious question. Would you have read the letter? Little Forrest writes a letter, right? And Forrest leaves it on the grave, says he's not allowed to read it. It's sweet, I guess, that he's respecting his 3/4-year-old child's inner life and privacy, but like, wouldn't you want to know what was going on in your son's head there?
Do you think it said, "Mom, why didn't you tell me Dad's a dumbass"?
I think it says,
Dad sucks.
Mom, what's the story with Dad's Apple stock? Do I get the bag?
Did we sort the will?
Yeah.
My only nitpick with the scene was Forrest, who, it's been established, not a rocket scientist, gets super eloquent there for like 3 sentences.
You think so?
He's talking about destiny and fate, and it's like, you were a gardener, like by choice, and you had Apple stock, and we've been established that you're kind of all over the map. Now you're just eloquently breaking this down for us. I don't know. I didn't buy it.
It raises something really interesting, which is like the difference between the book and the movie. In the book, the character is so different because he's more of a savant. So they're like for anybody who's read the Forrest Gump novel, he's like a math whiz, but he also is very socially inept.
Yeah, they made it more like almost like Will Hunting, Rain Man-ish. Yeah.
But he's just simple in this movie. He doesn't have any of those skills. So you can almost feel like a little bit of the carryover from the character in the writing.
Yeah. Well, what do you got for most rewatchable, CR?
I think I'm going to go with the Vietnam, the ambush, and like the rescuing. Just because I think it's the most...
See, he always likes a good...
No, just brothers, band
So
of
it brings
brothers,
you back
let's
to
go.
when you
Yeah.
serviced our country.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you have?
I'm going to go with the scene with Jenny and Forrest at the National Mall and Sean's Abby Hoffman impression. I do just want to state formally for the record, though, that your bias, which I'm sure will come up a lot tonight, against the I ran across the country for 3 years sequence and not putting that in
didn't
to
even
most
mention
rewatchable scenes is crazy.
You like documented the
That
entire
is an
last hour of the
iconic
movie
sequence.
and skipped the running.
It's coming up later.
Yeah, I bet.
What do you have, Sean?
I love meeting little Forrest for the first time.
Oh.
Wow. Didn't pick a Tom Hanks
Sean has a
scene.
heart.
No, Tom Hanks in Meeting Little Forrest.
Oh, Little Forrest. I thought you meant Little. Well, there's
I love the
multiple Little
Monument.
Forests.
I like Monument
Forrest
Protest.
Jr.
My favorite. All right, next category is what stage the best. If you're ever in trouble, just run away. Just good advice from Jenny. Good one. It put
how
in
we built
terms
this country.
Forrest could
Yeah.
understand. Like, he's like, all right, so I'm going to run if I'm in trouble.
You think that was like a metaphor for Vietnam? Or?
Yeah, it's good. Good. Sierra, what do you have? Give me one.
Well, I got the pacing. This is a very long film, and it goes in a bunch of different places and has a bunch of different shifts tonally, but it never, like, is any scene in this movie longer than, like, 2.5 minutes? Like, it essentially flies through it, so I always thought the pacing was great.
Mal?
Should we talk about the feather?
That's a What's Age the Best?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Because this is a fairy tale, right? This is a fable. So you have this like deeply symbolic bookend to open and to close. You're saying that you think Forrest Gump is an unreliable narrator, but like the feather is our version of that as the audience. We get to like project our meaning onto that, right? And like you guys talked about this on the first pod, like what do you see in that feather? And the idea that it's just gonna fall on his foot at the beginning, then it's there at the end, he's gonna pick it up, right? He's gonna put it in his briefcase. Like you move through life, you cross paths, the randomness, the coincidental chance encounters. And like that actually, I think, connects to the grave sequence that you cited, right? This idea of like, is it destiny? Do we choose our own course? It's both, right? Wonderful. Who doesn't love some literary symbolism in their blockbuster?
Did your mom like that thing?
That's
you just
more of
did?
a dad one. The feather's more of a dad one.
All right.
Yeah.
What do you have, Sean? What's Age the Best? Give us one.
Blaming everything that happened in this country on one guy.
Yeah.
My first What's Age the Best? Robin fucking Wright. Just one of the greatest looking actresses of all time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give her GOAT status, but she's in the A block of the TV show about it.
A block of goat status?
Just the perfect Jenny Gump. I don't know. Who else could have played Jenny Gump? Who would you have picked from any era?
Any era?
Yeah.
Ever?
Of any
Cleopatra,
actress?
is she eligible?
Who?
Cleopatra?
I didn't think about it. I didn't mean to go way that far
Yeah,
back.
Mary Todd Lincoln? Yeah.
Jesus. Just love Robin Wright. Princess Bride and this, like, unassailable. I thought the CGI in this movie for a 90s movie is actually, like, pretty good.
It is. They're like still not doing this good of a job on Disney Plus
It makes
today.
you wonder if, like,
Yeah.
did
They're
we,
not.
as a civilization, peak with Jurassic Park in this? And then it's just been basically
Where it was,
done.
like, realistic CGI, but you could still
Yeah.
tell that. But now it's like, I don't know where we are now.
It's because it's used sparingly, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there are a couple of sequences in the Vietnam set piece where there's a lot of it, but for the most part, it's just very small dashes where it's not like the entire movie was shot on a green screen or on a soundstage.
Right.
It's shot in real environments, so it looks good.
More What's Age the Best. Sean, how many Doors songs?
So there are 5 songs by the Doors, but I actually read that there were 6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
I thought there were 6.
like, I think the Doors are a little bit over-criticized, but 5 is a lot.
Zemeckis is like, I'm going
And
for this.
isn't it 3 in a row at one point?
Yeah, he just really liked the Doors. He wanted to
shocking.
set the record straight.
Although Forrest being a dumb guy who likes the Doors is a great, that's a great bit. That's really funny.
I liked how he described the rain in Vietnam, where it's like stinging rain, fat rain, sideways rain, rain that came up. Vietnam, it wasn't fun, was it, Chris?
No. I can tell you some stories, but
A very young Haley Joel Osment?
Incredible.
sure.
What do you have for What's Age Best, Mal?
How about quotability? I think this has been
Yeah.
a little bit of a journey for this movie, right? Where like the stupid is as stupid does, or run Forrest run, or life is like a box of chocolates almost became like so ubiquitous and inescapable that like then people tired of them. But the staying power for the lines from this movie is extraordinary.
It was this and Austin Powers in the,
Yeah.
in the A block
Yeah.
of the GOAT conversation.
Another poet.
I have another What's Age the Best, actually.
Yeah.
New York City Lieutenant Dan.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Would love to party with that guy.
Yeah.
Did he know Harley Mays?
Great New Year's Eve.
Pure CR energy, that guy.
Yeah. Speaking of Lieutenant Dan, I had when it's finally going well on the boat, and he says, "Forrest, I never thanked you for saving my life."
Yeah.
And then he dives into the water. That got you, Sean, a tiny bit? No?
That aged the best?
Yeah, it's a great moment.
Okay.
It's a great Gary
Nice scene.
Sinise moment.
Yeah,
I
sure.
liked it.
Yeah, it's a good scene.
So this is a What's Age the Best. That Playboy magazine that Jenny Gump was in.
Yep.
Sold at a movie prop auction 3 years ago for $4,800.
You paid
you?
$4,800
No,
to Chris Ryan.
No, it really was $4,800. The Lieutenant Dan redemption, going from magic legs, he has the new wife at the wedding. Would it have been funnier if he married cunning Carla or long legs Lenore?
No.
It was like, this is
No.
remember long legs
What do you mean? You
Lenore?
married them both like Byron Bale.
Double.
Polyamory, Forrest. It's the future. I got too much love for one lady.
Sierra, this one's for you. What's age the best? Attractive, coked up characters on the edge. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Timeless.
she's
Yeah.
going on the hotel balcony. Oh no!
Yeah, she's speaking my language.
Just had a
Yeah.
few. So every still picture of Forrest in this movie, Hanks has his eyes closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Such a
like
good bit.
just like a little
Fortune magazine, you can do better.
Yeah.
Come on. We can get another cover shot, can't we?
I really like young Forrest mocking the principal after he has sex with his mom. It's
Yeah.
very funny.
Bernard from Lost. I thought of you.
Of course. Yeah.
Would you put the Bubba Gump
You're
company,
mixing up your scenes there.
the Bubba Gump
That would be a movie.
Bubba Gump and Company? I can't even say it. That restaurant. There's like 33 of them. Is that
Yeah.
a What's Age the Best or What's Age the Worst?
I think like the franchising and merchandising of Forrest Gump. Like again, this is not Star Wars. This is Forrest
So you'd
Gump.
go What's Age the Worst?
No, best. The
Okay.
fact that they were able, like, people wear Bubba Gump Shrimp Co. hats. That's
People.
astonishing.
Do you, when you see somebody wearing a Bubba Gump Shrimp
Yeah.
Co hat, you're like,
I'm
that-
like, put on a Baltimore Orioles hat.
New owners. Congratulations,
Yeah.
Mal.
New owners. I'm thrilled.
So long, Angelos.
Sign Gunnar Henderson.
Forrest Alabama football career we mentioned, but goddamn, I enjoy that part of the movie.
it's amazing.
You could have had 7 more scenes of him. I would have liked to see him in the Cotton Bowl, like all kinds of things. You want to do the soundtrack here as a What's Age the Best? That could also be a What's Age the Worst.
I have it
wondering-
in What's Age the Worst,
You do.
but for a very personal reason.
All right, let's hear it, Sierra.
You wanted me to jump ahead? Okay. I used to work at record stores in the mid-'90s, and this was just an absolute nightmare to fucking put in the security case. Is it was only the Bubba Gump, the Forrest Gump soundtrack was this double disc. We could never keep it in stores because boomers were like, I love all these songs. And so we would have to constantly restock it, which means you would have to put it in the plastic security case, and it was just the bane of my existence. So I never forgave it.
It was this
Wow.
and Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
Yes.
With those thick double
Oh my
cases.
God.
Yeah. That was great.
So we talked about this when we did the first time we did this pod, which was a lot shorter.
I have no idea what I said about it then. So if I contradict
Zemeckis,
myself.
the pics are so generic
Yeah.
that I actually respect it. Like, it's like, he's running
Yes.
this scene. I will play Running on Empty.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
almost like Forrest Gump level IQ for the song
I totally
choices.
agree. I totally, like, if you rewatch the Vietnam sequence, it's like, hey now, what's that sound? Like, while they're looking around, looking for what's the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it is the most literal, and also, it is the most obvious top 40 from that era. So it's a double whammy of obviousness, and yet, if you just put those songs
The songs
on,
are good. It's like,
Exactly.
oh, Jackson Brown.
Bangers.
Jam
Yeah.
Singer.
yeah, some good songs.
Yeah. Any other What's Age the Best before we keep moving?
No, I just wanted to talk a lot about Dan in New York. Also, I will say, great drill sergeant. I love this drill sergeant in this movie.
This is one of my favorite people in this film.
The drill sergeant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we should save him.
Can save them. This did the 5-fecta, Sean. VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming. What do we call that? The quadfecta?
Absolutely.
What'd you call
Yeah.
The fantasy
four, but
fecta?
sure,
Would
yeah.
you own
The fantasy factor.
fantasy fecta? The quinfecta?
Fun fact about this Laserdisc, no chapters. You had to watch the film all the way through because Zemeckis was like, no one will be skipping around in my movie.
Some quickie awards. The Kid Cudi Pursuit of Happiness Award for Best Needle Drop. Probably Running on Empty for the jogging
I
scene,
had Go
right?
Your Own Way, but same scene. Yeah, same
Okay.
same sequence.
What do you have, Mel?
I have Jenny as Bobby Dylan. Stage
Oh,
name Bobby Dylan,
okay.
singing "Blowin' in the Wind" in the nude.
Yes.
The Big Kahuna Burger were best use of food and drink. The 15 Dr. Peppers. I don't
Yeah.
think.
More than a
think
box
anything-
of chocolates?
Box of chocolates is tough to top.
I like Dr.
Okay.
Pepper. Den of Thieves, Benihana Award, Scene Still in Location, obviously the monument. And then, what do you got for Great Shot Gordo Award for Best Cinematic Shot?
I got Jenny running across the reflecting pool, just because it was like actually like a pretty cool. They had to take like 2 days to make it, and they would basically shoot all the extras in squares of like 1,500, and then move them and then replicate it. So innovation.
I like Forrest beating the hell out of Jenny's annoying boyfriend in slow motion.
As a great shot, Gordo.
Yeah, I like the slow-mo. It's like, oh, he's going to kick this guy's ass.
Pinnacle of cinematography in this film. Yeah.
Forrest was like strong, man. You didn't want to mess with
Yeah.
Forrest.
Absolutely.
American.
Yeah. That's
All
like
right.
Greenbow, Alabama strength.
Here we go. The Butch's Girlfriend Award for the weak link of the film. When I got tired, I slept. When I got hungry, I ate. The jogging sequence. My God, why? Just why? Why is it in this movie? He jogs for 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days straight. This is the dumbest scene of all time. Why did this happen,
So
Chris?
him becoming a champion ping pong player,
Right, exactly.
or busting up Watergate, that's
Right.
fine. But him
What person
jogging,
could run for 3 years and 2 months straight? Why? Why are you staring at me in horror?
It's the movie in miniature, right? Like everything that the movie is trying to do is present in that scene, and the way that he you get the emotion of him saying that it brought people hope, right? You have the absolute kind of like incredulity of the response that you're having is the one that you're supposed to have, but then like we get a great moment where we see the clippings that Jenny has collected, which I have some follow-up material on in Unanswerable Questions. He's a sensation. Like everything that he does inspires not only attention, but rapture, and he doesn't give a shit.
Sean, help me.
Well, it's a plot device. Because you got to ask yourself, if Jenny wanted to get impregnated by Forrest Gump, dubious proposition in the first place, but if she did want to do that, why would she keep the child from Forrest? Like, this is a guy who owns the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company.
Yeah.
Like, you lock it
He's
down.
on the cover
like,
of
this
Fortune
is,
magazine.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
you would, in theory, but what we need to do is be completely distracted from that question and have a whole set piece where Forrest, for some unknown reason, is going to run for the duration of Haley Joel Osment's life, so that by the time we get to see him, he's that age and cute. And so we're like, okay, I get it. I see why they're back together. Also, she got sick. I think that's why it's there. That's not in the book. That whole running thing, that's all an invention by Eric Roth.
I'm going to say he developed plantar fasciitis or a torn meniscus. Something is happening at some point over 3 years. Morewood Sage the worst. So the CGI is really good except for John Lennon's lips. They just
They're
couldn't
just an
Yeah.
figure that
abomination.
one out at all. That was really rough.
No possessions?
It also is. It
Very
takes
strange.
a peg or two out of the John Lennon genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To have Forrest Gump just writing those lyrics for him. Yeah.
Is that not what happened?
Here's what's in Forrest's suitcase at the bus stop. A ping pong battle, a Curious George book, some awards, and a feather.
Not the beauties of the South
Like
issue
that
of
thing-
Playboy.
Almost like you could just put him in jail if somebody opened the suitcase. Like, this guy's planning an attack. You mentioned Sally Field's 10 years older than Hanks. Here's a good What's Age the Worst. Warner Brothers had Forrest Gump. And after Rain Man came out, they decided it wouldn't work. And they traded it for the rights to a movie called Executive Decision, which was a $650 million mistake by Warner Brothers. Tough one, Sean.
I don't know. Kurt Russell, Steven Seagal. They hijack a plane. Movie
I'm not
rocks.
saying I didn't like Executive Decision. I'm just maybe not great. There's a deleted scene that they shot and is on the 25th anniversary Blu-ray where young Jenny kills her father by releasing the tractor handbrake so it runs him down in the cornfield.
That's sick.
I love that. I wish that had been in the movie.
The filmmakers decided the audiences would not forgive Jenny and
Has
took it out.
Jenny's father been like terrorizing her
Yeah.
for all of her life? Like I think we would have just stood up and applauded.
You know me, the scene's in. If I'm the director, I'm keeping that one. That sounds amazing.
The Simmons
Yeah.
cut of Gump. Was
Simmons
just
cut.
unreal.
You keep that scene, Sean?
Yeah.
I think you got to save that for the Gump prequel, Jenny's Reckoning. I feel like that would be.
All right, fair.
Can I ask Bill, just off the, not to digress here, but if you did make Forrest Gump, do you have Gump like on the court with Garnett being like, anything is possible? Like,
See, I was going to make an Embiid Simmons joke here, but I'm just not going to. Well, this is going to bum you guys out, but they filmed a deleted scene with Gump and Martin Luther King.
yeah.
Where Gump distracts police dogs that were going to attack Martin Luther King, and they decided, in their infinite wisdom, we should probably take this out. And thank God.
Kind of
because-
redefines deleted scene.
Yeah, that is, talk about deleted for a reason.
Good
I can't
edit.
even believe they filmed that.
I can't even believe they talk about it. Yeah.
That's just unbelievable. And then Eric Roth, the screenwriter, who's done a lot of good stuff, they were developing a sequel. And in the sequel, Forrest Jr., I'm not making this up, Forrest Jr. had AIDS. Forrest ended up in OJ's car in the back seat. Forrest became a ballroom dancer who danced with Princess Di. Not making this up. And then he found a Native American girlfriend. They lived in Oklahoma City. She worked in a federal building and got blown up in the bombing.
It's true. And then Eric Roth was like, but 9/11 ruined all that.
Yeah. They had agreed to do it, and 9/11 happened, and they were like, let's back off on this Gump thing. Listen, this is apparently factual. I don't understand. I don't even know, what is the craziest out of those
That would be
four
like
things?
if you got high and hung out all night with your friends and be like, let's just think of what Gump 2
The
would
craziest Forrest.
Well, there's one other thing about it, which I don't think was going to be in the movie, but in the Gump sequel book, the movie exists. And the movie, the second book is all about how the real Forrest Gump meets Tom Hanks and talks to him about how inaccurate the portrayal of his life was in the movie Forrest Gump. Like, everybody involved in the whole Gump
And isn't
enterprise.
Tom Hanks a dick in the book? Like,
Yeah,
he's like,
he's
I
like a
don't
dick
care.
to him. Yeah. These people are on drugs.
It's stupefying. Best quote.
I got one other What's Age the Worst. It's
Go.
it's not a big deal, but it is like when you lead with I'm related to Nathan Bedford
Yeah.
Forrest.
This was mine as well.
We should
Fact,
talk about this.
Named
Yeah.
after
Terrible.
him.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah.
Mama said the Forrest part was to remind me that sometimes we all do things that, well, don't just make no sense. You could just have a chat about people make mistakes. You don't need to name your son after the founder of the Klan
Yeah.
to impart that
the
wisdom.
Nathan Bedford Forrest wiki is like a wild ride. like that guy.
You spend a lot of time on that wiki?
Last night I was like, what the fuck?
Was that
this
on
guy's in this movie? He's a bad man.
Best quote that's not the typical best quote from this movie. I really like, there's an awful lot you can tell about a person by their shoes.
Yeah.
That was a good one. That's like
my
a good
favorite.
high school yearbook
Yeah.
quote.
I like that one.
All right, Stephen A. Smith, hottest take award. You have one, CR?
Yeah. So this is out there. So this again, but I think this really works. Is that this movie works way better if you just look at it as like a allegory for Jesus Christ, and basically the entire movie.
I thought you said this was out there.
No, I mean it's out there. Like this has been talked about on some Christian forums and stuff like that. You know. Like,
Okay.
If you Google Forrest Gump Jesus, you get to some interesting websites. So it's pretty obvious. The beard, the apostles, Lieutenant Dan, the conversion moment. Like it comes up a lot. And if you watch it as like a parable, it actually.
Jenny as Mary Magdalene.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty sick, CR.
Yeah. I'm doing the work. I'm trying my best.
Thanks again to Honda.
I don't remember which book in the New Testament the premature ejaculation happens in, but I also realize that that's absolutely a sin to say out loud, so I'm sorry.
What do you have, Mal?
If Forrest Gump lived now, he would be canceled instantly. One tweet and he's done, right? Name for a Klan leader, as we just discussed.
Yeah.
Shoves a woman off his lap, right? Pushes a woman. Shows the president of the United States his ass. Pulls down his pants in front of the president on television. You mentioned beating up Jenny's date. Constantly starting fights and punching people.
He was violent.
To assume,
Very.
during the 3-year run that he's just constantly, when he says, if I had to go, you know, I want, like, constantly defecating in public. Right? How much of the 3 years were just arrests for public urination? Like, maybe it works better in your timeline if it's just that.
So you think he's canceled?
Instantly.
I like it. What do you got, Sean?
This is kind of elaborate, but go with me. If Forrest Gump was never born, the New York Jets would have 0 Super Bowls to their name. Because think about it like this. You go back to Alabama in '62. You got a young hotshot quarterback, Joe Namath. He needs to build his confidence in his freshman season at Alabama. What does he need? Good field position. Who's getting him that field position? Little punt returner named Forrest Gump. That gives him the confidence to project him into the AFL and eventually to Super Bowl III, where he gives us the one title we needed.
I love it. So Elvis taught Elvis to dance, taught the Jets how to win a Super Bowl.
That's right.
I like it. My hottest take doubles as the Vincent Chase Award for Are We Sure This Character Was Actually Good at Their Job? Named after Vincent Chase in Entourage, who couldn't act but was a famous actor. So this goes to, let's talk about Forrest's mom here.
Wow.
You zagged.
Named her son after the head of the KKK.
Yeah.
We'll just start there.
Tough.
To remind him that sometimes we do things that don't make sense. Sleeps with the principal, with Forrest just outside swinging on a swing so he doesn't have to go to a special school. Let him go to Vietnam. Could have gone to the AFL, could have gone to the NFL. There's 2 football leagues in 1963. Easily could have made a living on that. Here are some of her quotes that Forrest thinks were so wisdom and so great. If God had intended everyone to be the same, he would have given everyone braces on their legs. What does that even mean? Mama says stupid is as stupid does. What? Mama always said dying's a part of life. Oh. Whoa. She did it again. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. You actually do. There's a fucking key with all the chocolates. You know what you're gonna get. It's like, oh, there's the cherry one. Oh, that one has a nut in it. Mama was as dumb as Forrest Gump.
I think you really need to consider that she knows who she's speaking with in all of these circumstances.
She lowered her playing field?
Yeah, she may have
All
been
right, fair.
watering down the wisdom.
That's fine. Casting what ifs. I swear this is true, but Zemeckis wanted Harry Anderson to play Forrest Gump.
From Night Court.
Yeah, the
And
guy
didn't
from
he
Night
do
Court.
like another CBS show instead?
Yeah, he couldn't. He was doing some random CBS show.
Yeah.
And Zemeckis like, damn, I guess I'll have to get Tom Hanks. And John Travolta was the original choice. And
God.
said after that passing in the role was a mistake. I would say so, John.
Can you imagine if Travolta had done, would he have done Gump and Fiction in the same year?
I think he does Gump over Fiction. Or maybe he does both. What do you think?
Well, I think he would have done Gump over Fiction too because of the filmmaker involved, but he made 2 movies that tried to read Gump. He made both Michael,
Yeah.
in which he played an angel,
Yeah.
and
that movie's
Phenomenon, in which he played like a man with magical powers.
I like Phenomenon.
And in both cases, he was like, I gotta get me some of that Gump. I'm trying to correct the Gump mistake.
Phenomenon's good. I like that movie.
He looked right at me when he said that.
This led me on a deep dive, all the movies John Travolta passed on.
Oh.
Forrest Gump, Officer and a Gentleman, American Gigolo, Splash, The Green Mile, and Manny in Scarface.
Yeah.
Travolta said no. Sean Penn claimed he was the second choice for Forrest Gump, and he turned it down. I don't know if I believe that.
Did he claim that on John Bernthal's podcast?
That's on the, yeah. I think he did. I think that's true, actually. And then for Bubba, 3 people definitely turned it down. David Allen Greer, Dave Chappelle, and Ice Cube.
Yeah.
Ice Cube as Bubba Gump does not work. I am just gonna
No.
say that right now.
Hot off of Boys in the Hood. His first next movie would have been Forrest Gump.
I can't. I
Did
don't
he do
need-
Anaconda instead, though?
I don't know. Chappelle felt really bummed out when the movie made $670 million and badgered Hanks to work with him again, and they did You've Got Mail together. There's one other audition. Do you want to tell them who auditioned for Bubba?
Tupac.
Tupac Shakur.
Yeah.
Audition for Bubba Gump.
I think it would have brought a different energy
Yeah.
to Bubba Gump.
Different vibe.
Yeah. They hit him up, Bubba. You know?
Jenny Gump, Jodie Foster, Demi Moore, and Nicole Kidman all turned it down. I don't know which one of those three would have been the worst one, but probably Demi Moore. And Terry Gilliam turned it down as a director. So
There's one casting what if that we haven't touched on, though. That Joe Pesci was being discussed for Lieutenant Dan.
Oh my God.
And it's one of the great...
So did you think that? I didn't know if that was real. That
but
like broke
sometimes
my
you
brain.
see something and you just need to believe it. You know?
That would have been
and the
amazing.
idea of Joe Pesci being like, shrimp, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're like, stop fucking talking about shrimp, motherfucker. Like, what the fuck is so good about shrimp?
But think about the amazing visual image of Joe Pesci with no legs.
Yeah. It's incredible.
Just that stump body would have been amazing.
Yeah. Harder to prop him up against the side of the hospital bed, though.
So the Ruffalo Hannah Rubin at Partridge Overacting Award, Sydney styles it up a couple times.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
here for it.
Oh,
but-
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Joey Pants Best That Guy Award. So ironically, I think Sinise was a that guy before this movie, and then graduated to being Gary Sinise. I didn't know who he was before this movie. He was like a stage actor.
It's not like he went on to be one of the world's great film actors, though. Like, have you looked at Gary Sinise's IMDb
Well, he
lately?
was in CSI for
Yeah.
like 10 years.
He hasn't been in a movie in 20-something years.
I think he was too creepy and ransom, and that was it. He couldn't
But
get
he's
normal
running
parts.
off. He does this. He does Apollo 13. I mean, he was
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah, he did his nice run. Yeah.
I think it's Sam Anderson. It's the principal.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Oh my God.
Bernard
All right.
from Lost.
Yeah.
Your guy Lee Paxton from Justified.
He's my vote.
So Dion Waiters Award, which is for best heat check, where somebody just comes in and steals a couple scenes. You could go Michael T. Williamson as Bubba, the horny principal. You could do Cunning Carla and Long Legs Lenore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great one.
Old lady in pink dress at bus stop, really into Gump stories.
Yeah, she's
Like
wonderful.
her.
Yeah.
Or Dick Cavett aging himself 20 years. What would you go with, Sean?
I have one more nomination, and it's
Okay.
my pick. It's Efimo Omalami as drill sergeant.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You must be a goddamn genius, Gump. You must have an IQ of 160. That guy is incredible in that scene.
You
He's
go with
coming for the Full Metal Jacket crown in that scene.
It's pretty good.
Has there ever been a bad drill sergeant in a movie?
No.
Never.
It's never not worked.
Should we just like start like cutting drill sergeants into like
Yeah.
Dead Poets Society?
Yeah.
Just to, like,
Great idea.
Smart.
I'm going with Dorothy Harris, the bus driver.
Oh, that's
yeah.
a good one.
Iconic showing again, like across time, when they do the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead version of Forrest Gump, where we're seeing the entire story through side character perspectives. I want it to be through bus driver Dorothy's eyes. That's the story we need.
I know.
We have a new category just for the tour. What would Tony Romo's director's commentary for this movie sound like?
He's gonna blow that bathrobe, Jim. It's his first time touching a human breast, Jim. It's gonna happen way too soon for him, Jim.
It's gonna be a gusher, Jim. Then the jogging
He's been
scene.
saving it up for years, Jim. It's all this moment.
The jogging scene would be great.
He's like telestrating across the room, you know.
Yeah. It's been running a long time. It's gonna run all the way to Maine, Jim.
I like that you specified human breast.
Yeah. Well, guys get up to weird stuff in farms. Yeah.
Half-assed internet research. Greenbow, Alabama does not exist. They made it up.
Everyone
They built-
heartbroken in the audience.
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that was a conversation killer. They spent 2 months building Forrest's house on a South Carolina plantation, and they finished filming, and they argued with the person who owned the land, and they said, fuck you, and knocked it down. They knocked down what would be a tourist attraction today. I think people would go to this house. Big mistake.
Wow. I think I have to retract my prior comment about the successful merchandising and franchising
I know,
of the
that
Forrest
was
Gump
like
universe.
no-brainer. So the author of the book, Winston Groom, says that he intended the disease that Jenny had to be hepatitis C, not AIDS.
I think Zemeckis.
Sorry, that wasn't funny. Just the way
great,
that
great
Yeah.
spot to
the way you
laugh.
put
I got very serious there.
you
Yeah.
like the hammer on that was like
Yeah.
not AIDS.
It does feel like Zemeckis
Zemeckis
is
took
leaning
some liberties,
AIDS,
yeah.
for sure.
Kurt Russell was the voice of Elvis.
Yes.
This one, I was stunned by. Michael T. Williamson wore a lip attachment for Bubba Gump's protruding lip. I did not know that.
Better tuck that in. Get it caught on a tripwire.
Tom Hanks' younger brother, Jim Hanks, was his double for the cross-country scenes. This is a great one, good internet one. Jenny's date of birth was the same day as the Trinity test.
It's Oppenheimer shared universe, baby.
Hell yeah.
Sean, coincidence?
We need a 4th hour with Jenny.
Yeah. What if the last shot of Oppenheimer was Jenny Gump being born?
Yeah. Move over, Barbie.
Yeah. Oppenheimer's security clearance needed to die so Jenny could be born.
The park bench was in Savannah, Georgia. It's now in the Smithsonian. You guys could go see it. Here's what Forrest says. This is what Tom Hanks said Forrest said at the Vietnam rally after the mic was pulled. Sometimes when people go to Vietnam, they go home to their mamas without any legs. Sometimes they don't go home at all. That's a bad thing. That's all I have to say about that. I'm not sure Abby Hoffman should have been that blown away.
You said it all, man. Forrest Gump!
Zemeckis and Hanks did the thing where they waived a large part of their fee for percentage points and made ungodly amounts of money from the movie.
I think they did that because Paramount was trying
The
to
budget cuts, yeah.
cut the budget on
Yeah.
them, and so they said, "We'll let you cut the budget if you give us points," which turned out to be pretty darn smart.
And then in the novel, which Sean alluded to earlier, Gump was an astronaut and a professional wrestler and a chess player, and it's just I think a different vibe than the movie. So
There was
you go.
one another theory that was floating out there that I found on the internet.
Oh no!
This is Forrest is dead theory. So that the idea is that the bullies kill him early in the movie, and when he breaks out of his braces, it's him leaving this mortal coil. He does good deeds on Earth until he finally gets his angel wings, which is the feather, and then this is a CR, just a little bit of spice on top of this. Fucking Haley Joel Osment shows up and he sees dead people. Thread the needle.
Love it.
Great stuff.
Did Chris convert to Christianity in Chicago?
I've been watching too much True Detective, I'll tell you that.
Apex Mountain. I think yes for Tom Hanks. This is it. After back-to-back Oscars, and he makes this movie work for $680 million. Like,
Yeah.
what movie were they not saying yes to Tom Hanks for?
Yeah. And then he's right into Apollo 13 and Toy Story. We get
Yeah.
Woody right on
Great
the heels
job,
of
Tom
this.
Hanks. Love that guy.
Not.
I wish Sean liked you a little more, Tom Hanks.
So it's not Cloud Atlas.
No, it's not. It's a cheap shot. Robin Wright.
No. House of Cards.
Yeah.
I can't believe I mentioned Frantic last night and House of Cards tonight. What is
Two of
wrong
your
with
favorites.
All your problematic
me? But
faves.
she was nominated for 4 Emmys for that. I mean, it's got to be that.
She's great, yeah.
Zemeckis.
No, Back to the Future.
Okay. Premature ejaculation.
I think so.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, it broke the record by
the shot
like 2
heard around
seconds.
the world.
Yeah.
What about for
Bobby Thompson and Forrest Gump.
for boomer pop culture? Would you go this or Big Chill?
Oh.
Big Chill.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say, Sean?
It's a tough one because this movie comes out post-Clinton. And I always think of Clinton as like you guys did it, you old bastards. You know, like you got your guy in there, you know, you just really wanted to take over the world and you fucking did it, and then you made Forrest Gump, you assholes. Now you just won't give up the goddamn crown at all. Just step back. Just step back. Let Mallory go forward as a leader of this world.
Apex Mountain shrimp.
There is like a 7-minute stretch of this movie where every single possible preparation of shrimp is enumerated
And
in
it
full.
made me kind of want shrimp. Joe House is out there somewhere, and it made him hungry. Gary Sinise, Apollo 13 or this?
I think this.
Okay.
Snake Eyes.
Love that.
The Oscars, Apex Mountain. The 1994 Oscars, which had David Letterman hosting, and it was the Oprah Uma one. It became super controversial. And then we had Shawshank versus Pulp Fiction versus Forrest Gump. And it was like baby boomers against newer people.
Can
The old school Hollywood against new school Hollywood.
Gen X, your generation.
Gen X, yeah, my generation.
Can I give you a data point about this?
Yeah.
In 1995, when this Oscars took place, 49 million people watched the Oscars. 83 million people watched the Super Bowl that year. In 2023, 19 million people watched the Oscars and 112 million people watched the Super Bowl. The Oscars fucked up. That's terrible. What happened?
I felt like the Oscars meant the most, mattered the most, and resonated the most in the 90s because we had enough movie history at that point. I really cared who won. There was that whole movie making culture, all the magazines. It's just like, I really cared. And now I care because you care.
Yeah. Yeah.
You care so that you can watch all the movies and be like, you know that movie you loved and talked about?
Hated it.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer
Hated it.
was just too long.
Yeah. But Sean, how many people are on Letterboxd every day? You're fine. You're fine.
I see
Don't
each and every
encourage
one
him.
of you, and I love
Don't
and respect
encourage
all of you.
Ridiculous. Michael T. Williamson, Apex Mountain?
No, it's Heat.
You fucking ain't right, it's Heat.
Methamphetamines.
Movies built around a dumb character? Would you go this or Dumb and Dumber?
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I would rather watch Dumb and Dumber right now.
Okay. The Washington Monument, I'm going to say no. I just think that probably had better moments.
Sure.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Tragic hot female movie characters?
It's a long list.
How much more do we have to go in the show?
Yeah, all right, moving on. Best racehorse name has to be Magic Legs if we're having a racehorse from this movie. Like, you're betting on Magic Legs.
I'm going with I'm So Dizzy.
Well, speaking of, we're up to the... it's always a pleasure when we get to do this in person, especially with her parents here.
I wasn't sure if you were going to skip this tonight.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
The Mallory Rubin Award, which we named after, did this movie need a better sex scene? We literally named this after Mallory, and it was probably an HR violation, but we're all okay.
Okay.
Mal?
I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity
You're welcome.
to share this with 850 of my closest friends and my father. Sorry, Dad. It is astonishing to me, astonishing, that there is not a scene in this movie where Jenny teaches Forrest how to perform oral sex. Forrest hears once, never take your eye off the ball. And he becomes the best ping pong player in the history of the world. You don't have to worry about the premature ejaculation. And we have seen this man attack an ice cream cone.
The future of our country. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. Was there a better title for this movie? Probably not, right?
I don't think
Forrest
so.
Gump, good title. Okay.
I'm stumped. You gotta give me a second. You gotta give me a second. Yeah, no.
She really went for it, Jim.
Her dad's in the audience, Jim.
She didn't care. All right, time to pick some nits.
Yes.
Man, how long was Forrest at the bus stop? I mean, honestly, how many hours? Like
He gets
6?
at
9?
least 3 different buses, right? Have gone by.
3 hours? 5?
It really makes that Forrest is in heaven idea make a lot of sense. Because it could have been 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Where he was waiting for one bus.
And it's like, and he's 3 blocks away from where he's.
Yeah, and then
5
it's
to
like,
6.
oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
stupid. That's
Yeah.
right. I forgot
How
that
did
he's
he
dumb.
even get that far? Like, how
It's
did he get
amazing.
to Savannah? How did he get anywhere?
I mean, he ran across the entire country for 3
Yeah.
years. He knows where everything is except the apartment that he has the exact address for that's 5 blocks away.
All those people stayed at Forrest's mom's bed
Yeah.
and breakfast
Yeah.
in the middle of fucking nowhere, Alabama. That place was packed.
Beautiful.
What was going on there?
The like lush canopy of the tree line, a lake. Beautiful.
It wasn't near anything. Where were these people coming from?
It was a long time ago. You didn't need like a big Wi-Fi signal, you know? Just needed a refuge to
What do you
write.
have, CR?
I have a couple. First one is a little bit of a culture of accountability. I feel like I missed the boat as a child from I didn't ever use Gump as a verb, and I feel like we really missed out as a society. So you could use it in 2 different ways. One would be for premature ejaculation. So you could be like, Gary almost lost his virginity last night, but he just gumped out right after he got past second base. That would have been great. Also, just anybody running from a stressful situation, like, oh man, we were about to get in a fight with a bunch of Cowboys fans last night, but then Gary just gumped. He straight up gumped out the bar. So I feel like we could have used that. But the one that I'm really concerned about was, do you think that Forrest's mom was like, if you had told me you were going to turn into Debo Samuel, I may not have had sex with that principal because we probably could have put you in like IMG Academy, like right.
Oh my God. Great
take.
one. Great one.
You have any,
Incredible.
Sean?
Yeah. You already pointed out that it's insane that Forrest's mother allowed him to enlist in the military after graduating from college at that time.
And he was an only child. That was apparently
An
also
only
another
child
thing, yeah.
with a 75 IQ, and they're like, you should definitely go to war. And then on top of that, how long was he in Vietnam?
Oh, I had that
And
as
how-
my next one. So he meets JFK because
Yeah.
he's in the All-America team, and it has to be the 1962 team
62 probably,
because
yeah.
JFK died the next year. Basic training, Vietnam. We know Bubba dies in 1965 because you see it on his gravestone. And I have no idea what happens from 1965 to 1974. He plays ping pong.
Yeah.
For 9 years for the military?
Yeah.
A lot of ping pong.
Can they do that?
A lot of ping pong.
I don't want to make
Bumped
this
when it ends.
I don't want to make this movie longer, but it feels like there's one. Like he could have been like a roadie for the Rolling Stones for 2 years.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
That's a great
Like
one.
taught Mick Jagger to dance.
Maybe that's where all the oral sex tutelage happens. 65 to 74. Just 2-a-days.
Are we okay with every Louisiana boat getting destroyed in Hurricane Carmen except the Jenny boat?
Not super
No.
really, no.
Yeah,
No.
it's a plot hole.
Sort of forces you to wonder if Forrest just like was okay maintaining a monopoly on the shrimping business. Did he offer any of those people jobs? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's very strange, actually, if you think about it.
Supports your would-be canceled idea, too.
Yeah. Forrest destroyed everyone else. Why couldn't Jenny meet one nice guy? Not one?
Well,
Nobody like
but that's the story, right? She comes from an abusive household, so she's seeking.
just some rich guy in 1975 and that's it? She moves to Darien, Connecticut and
Yeah.
has a couple kids and we're done? Couldn't happen for her? Poor Jenny. Here's a nitpick. Once Forrest gets rich, he's getting ripped off immediately. I mean, that is like, come on. He's the biggest target who's ever been rich.
Yeah.
Nobody has to bother ripping him off because he just keeps giving his money away.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan, he's just like, here, take my money. He's like, got it some Apple stock, and it actually worked out. But there's 10 terrible versions of that.
I don't understand how he got Apple stock before Apple was a company.
I had a question about
Yeah,
this. This
it's
is a
tough.
picking nit.
I can't believe
Yeah.
Lieutenant Dan did that. Do you think like Dan was on the message boards, just like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
That's an unanswerable
Jobs has really
question.
got something cooking in the garage.
Yeah.
He went to high school with Wozniak. Yeah.
I thought Apple was around Was it around the mid 70s?
76.
Anybody know?
Yeah, but it didn't
Right?
go public. How would you buy
Yeah.
stock in a company that doesn't go public until 1982?
This is a movie where someone jogged for 3 years and 2 months straight. Here's a nitpick just for Chris. We needed Lieutenant Dan to throw Forrest a bachelor party where
Yeah.
things got a little nuts.
100%.
Yeah.
Like one of his magic legs
Dan
is just
takes the
missing the
legs
next
off,
day.
you
Yeah.
know?
It's like, where's my right magic leg?
Just for old time's sake.
The wedding's almost canceled.
Lenore's pops out of a cake. Yeah.
Bill, did you consciously pick movies for this cold weather tour that involved people with severed limbs and prosthetics?
No, this is the last one, thank God. Yeah.
2 nights in a row. Just realized.
All right, so I don't know if it's a nitpick or if it's an unanswerable question, but we talked about how evil of an act it was for Jenny to leave. But why did she leave?
Because she can't break him. She doesn't want to hurt him because she knows that she's.
Wait a couple weeks, or maybe she finds out she's pregnant.
The
and
night that
she
they
leaves
had
the next day. 'Cause she's
What?
like, I gotta.
No.
Well,
That's the thing. Forrest is not the father.
bang.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not
Wow.
the father.
I feel like I'm literally on
Yeah.
Maury right now.
yeah. yeah.
Has this not occurred to anyone else sitting here?
Oh, no,
How
of
convenient
course.
it is,
Yeah.
right at the moment when she's dying, that she calls up her rich moron childhood friend, and she's like, "I really need somebody to look after this kid. Maybe it's the guy who's worth $500 million will help out."
So I would say good theory, except when they're watching TV together, they really look alike.
Yeah. You don't think she
It's just,
coached
it
that
sold me
kid?
immediately.
She could have been like, look, he's going to walk over to the TV, just kind of like
Just
mirror
tilt
him.
your head. Yeah.
Also, the name
Call
on,
Dad.
the name on his birth certificate is like Dan. It's not Forrest. And then she ex post factoed it. No?
See, this is the
Wow.
Jets. This is the Jets. This isn't you. Deep down, you don't believe this. All right. Why didn't Forrest get what
Yeah.
Jenny had?
Yeah.
The grim conversation, but we're all friends here. I think we should have it.
That's why you guys came out, just to talk
Yeah.
STDs. And
Let's put it on the table. Why not, Mal?
Well, so there are a couple timeline variables to consider, right? So we have is it HIV? Is it hepatitis C? Chris and I did have a conversation earlier today where we debated whether it was smart and or safe to Google on our work computers, is hepatitis C sexually transmitted?
Yeah.
We decided not to do that. We figured we'd just like workshop it live here right
we just
now.
like sort of napped people at the Navy Yards. It was just like, just
Question
man on
for
the
you.
street it. Yeah.
Question for you. But either she already has whatever she has before they sleep together, in which case Forrest Jr., they're at risk, or she doesn't. She contracts it later, which means, are we supposed to assume that Jenny is still shooting heroin and sharing needles after she has a newborn? That's like very depressing.
All right, just to get grim here for a second. She dies.
Just to get grim? Like that wasn't grim?
No, I thought I'd take it up a notch. She dies in March 1982, which is 9 months after the first recorded AIDS case.
Yeah.
So it's still a mystery. Hot take, maybe she just had a virus.
Maybe. I think if you're Zemeckis and you're making this movie and you have your character say out loud it's a virus, they don't know what it is or how to treat it, and that's the time frame, like you know what your audience is going to assume.
Hot take, maybe the filmmakers fucked it up and they didn't research when everything started. And it was like, oh yeah, it was around then. And then that was what they did.
The movie is literally about key dates in American history.
Right.
That would be a bummer.
Any other pick and nits?
Got a couple quick ones.
All
Yeah,
right.
do it.
Has Forrest Gump ever considered closing the blinds in his hotel room? It's not just that he's involved in Watergate. It's that he calls and he's like, they're keeping me up. It's like, close your fucking drapes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't see the light. It's shocking.
And then we would have gotten more Nixon. That would have been sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do, Forrest? I think the fact that Forrest names the shrimp boat Jenny instead of Bubba is outrageous.
Yeah.
This is Bubba's dream. he couldn't honor his friend. I mean, sure, he's honoring him by like seeing through the promise. That's fine. Does
He gave
right
him
by his family.
half the fortune. His
Name
family.
the boat Bubba. It's Bubba's dream. What did Jenny do for that dream?
Well,
Never
I mean,
write him a letter?
Yeah.
She took off her shirt. One time.
Sequel, prequel, Prestige TV, all black cast are untouchable. I'm not against Prestige for this.
A
I'm not
prestige Forrest
against
Gump
it.
would be a bit of a chore.
I'm not against
I
it.
gotta be completely honest with you.
What streamer? What streamer are you putting it on?
Probably a failing one. Feels peacock-ish.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can I throw something at you?
Are they here?
Could be.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Peacock are right there. We didn't do recasting couch, but I can fold it into this category. I didn't.
Missed one. Yeah, sorry.
What if we are living a sequel to Forrest Gump, and Forrest Gump is being played by Travis Kelce? And
That's pretty
this
good.
is the way we get the Oscars back, is when we realize this is all a Truman Show, right? And that is the last year has been a movie, and then that gets nominated for Best Picture and beats Oppenheimer's Special Dispensation. How
So
about that?
recasting couch, Travis Kelce is Forrest Gump.
Yes. He
Wow.
saves us from coronavirus, wins multiple Super Bowls, dates Taylor Swift, pushes like a dubious credit card on us, like whatever it is he's up to. And has a podcast.
I love
He's
it.
the modern man.
Great one. Great one.
Is this movie better with Wayne Jenkins, Danny Trejo, Katherine Hahn, Steve Buscemi, Sam Jackson, JT Walsh, Byron Mayo, Harling Mays, or Philip Baker Hall?
I definitely we talked a little bit about Byron and what he could participate in this film, and I think he would do some great work. I think Danny Trejo would be an amazing addition to the Vietnam squad. But if Wayne Jenkins had been coaching Alabama, hey man, that's some great fucking special teams work, man. I didn't know I recruited Eric fucking Metcalf. I'll tell you what, Forrest, you got some great 40 speed. Too bad you just got drafted by the only team that matters, the United States Armed Forces. You're going to Vietnam a long fucking time, big boy. Let's get him the fuck out of here. It feels weird doing it so close.
Yeah, you're in the Mid-Atlantic. Yeah.
You really channeled the power of Wayne.
Wait, Wayne was the special teams coach at Alabama? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Just one Oscar, who gets it? Hanks or Zemeckis?
Hanks.
Okay, I agree. Probably unanswerable questions. I'm glad
So
you brought
many.
up Forrest in football.
Yes.
Best weight kick returner ever, Forrest Gump. Unbelievable. It's like every time he had the ball, 100 yards.
Where do you think he finished in the Heisman voting? Because this was really the era where there was like a huge gap typically between the first and second place
Well,
finisher.
so because I'm me, I researched
Staubach
this.
won in 63. You think he's second behind Staubach?
There were no receivers or kick returners on the All-American team.
Oh.
They took some liberties. They did have the AFL and the NFL back then, so we had two football leagues, and I find it impossible to believe that he wasn't drafted in one of those leagues. Like, it's impossible.
He's Devin Hester times 10.
Yeah. We
He's
have
like more of a
30 teams.
Cordell Patterson, bruiser, physical runner.
Yeah, just imagine what Shanny could do. Just
Yeah.
putting him into some concepts, you know?
He is on 2 Bear Bryant title teams based on this timeline.
He's like, I guess I go to Nam. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense.
He was so good, the whole section held up stop signs. That's how many times he scored a touchdown. They had to tell him to stop.
We forgot to point out, though, in picking nits, that whenever they hand him the ball on the kickoffs, that it's an illegal forward pass.
Oh, that's fair.
It's true.
So the jogging scene, that's reprehensible. Where did Forrest says, I'm done. I'm gonna go home now. Where did everyone else go? They're like, we followed this fucking idiot. Montana? We're 20 miles from a hotel? You're gonna stop here? They're just in the middle of some
I believe
highway?
they're in Arizona, right? And so he's
Yeah.
so close to the West Coast at that point. It's like, just see it through. Do it one more time, right? Get
Yeah.
to California.
You have an unanswerable question?
Yeah, what's up with everybody he comes into contact with either dies or gets maimed? including all of the presidents, where they just, well, Nixon didn't die, but, eventually he did. But, like, it just seems like he has, like, this, trail of death that follows behind him. I don't know what's going on with that.
So there's a more sinister movie lurking underneath Forrest Gump.
Look, if you shot this movie from Jenny's perspective, it's much different. This guy shows up 3 times in her life, beats the shit out of her boyfriends, ejaculates prematurely, and then gets her pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking crazy.
Are you saying that actually, like, the demon in her life was not her father, but Forrest Gump?
That would be an amazing. Now that's our prestige show.
That would basically
it's called Jenny.
Yeah, it would be like
It's the Jenny Gump story.
Pacific Heights version of this, where it's like the guy next door, and he's just like, okay, Forrest, whatever, man.
Vinyl season 2? Is this your backdoor pilot
right.
for Vinyl season 2? Just a lot of cocaine.
There's a whole is this a conservative movie thing that developed in the mid 90s from this. In 1995, National Review included Gump as one of its best 100 conservative movies, and it's still ranked number 4 right now. I don't really understand this, and I'm going to make this an unanswerable. Or maybe we just move on.
Well, let me just show the dichotomy that anybody can claim this movie. So within 5 minutes of the movie, there's a scene in which an active and awarded military serviceman speaks to an anti-war protest group and is applauded, and then meets the love of his life in the pond. And then, like, 5 minutes later, he's beating the absolute shit out of a democratic socialist in front of the Black Panthers. So you could say, this movie is all things to all people.
Yeah.
Good answer. Any other answerables? Because I got one more.
Did this movie invent deepfakes?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
You think so? Like, I mean,
Wow.
Conceptually, at least.
Man, you guys didn't expect this pod to go this dark, huh?
Yeah.
What do you have, Mel?
So the scrapbook that Jenny makes, the clippings, I'm assuming everyone goes frame by frame, freeze frame to read some of these headlines. One of the small ones is investigation of Gump to continue in hometown.
What?
What is that about?
Dark Gump. This is what I'm saying.
What is that about?
It's sitting right there for us.
That's like unbelievable. And then there's a lot, like, so there's really intriguing, serious, sinister stuff like that. And then it's just juxtaposed against an Inquirer headline. Go-Go Dancer says, Forrest Gump made me his secret lover. And then there's a little photo of Forrest and the banner that says, I don't know her. So he's like the proto-Clinton.
I just thought of the running and the dark Gump, like it's basically Ted Bundy and Gump's running the country, but he's also a serial killer.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the prestige thing.
We get some, like...
Directed by David Fincher?
Some Slate columns about the run where it's like, what's he running from? The dark truth behind Gump's endless run.
All right, last one from me, just because we have to. Cruise versus Hanks has been a big battle for us. What is this movie like if Tom Cruise played Forrest Gump?
Well, you would love the running scene.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
that's why I brought it up. Every scene of Gump running goes up 5 levels. And by the way, there's no fucking Jim Hanks as a stunt double. Cruise is doing all the jogging scenes. And I think he's hanging off the shrimp boat.
Fennessey, what do you think if it's Cruise plays Gump and Kubrick comes in to direct the first sex scene?
I mean, we all saw the magic between him and Jennifer Connelly on that bed in Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
Imagine what he could
Electric.
do with Robin Wright in that scene, prematurely ejaculating. It's got Cruise written all over it.
It's a funnier movie with Cruise.
Is it?
It is for me. Any other unanswerables? Okay. Best double feature choice for this movie. What do you got, Sean?
I mean, I think Back to the Future is like shows you the genius of Robert Zemeckis, and I feel like these two movies together are great.
I have Castaway.
Yeah,
What do
you
have,
could
Mel?
because this is Zemeckis and Hanks of it all. Or so you could do Castaway,
Beards.
wonderful beard, or you could do The Water Boy.
The Water Boy.
Great call.
I honestly can't top that.
That's so
great.
good.
Great stuff.
Can I point out one thing though? There's a movie coming out this year called Here, directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Tom Hanks and Robin Wright.
Yeah.
Written by Eric Roth, shot by Don Burgess, who shot Forrest Gump. It's a reunion of everyone, the critical people who made this movie. The movie is based on a graphic novel that takes place in one corner of a house over millions of years. And each panel is a different image of that space in a period in time. And somehow, this will be a movie starring Jenny and Forrest.
Wow.
I'm in.
Which is kind of what Forrest Gump is about, too.
Yeah, I love it.
Can't wait till 2025. Too long, Bill Simmons ringer.
Sounds kind of awful, I gotta be honest. The Indian Reds Zawantne Award for what happened the next day. I have Forrest Jr. ends up creating Facebook. Yeah. And eventually becomes the bane of our existence.
I like this.
Yeah?
I think Lieutenant Dan opens a hedge fund and eventually is the inspiration for billions.
Oh.
That's great.
Magic Legs LLC. Chris, what piece of memorabilia would you want from this movie?
Easy. The seat pad from Lieutenant Dan's wheelchair.
Oh. What a choice.
Sean?
Wouldn't that be sanitized before
Yeah.
you took
You want
possession?
the original must. Just come on.
Okay. Leg braces.
So I really like the Gump Mao table tennis set that
Yeah.
they show.
Yeah.
Just be an amazing thing to bring
Get
out
a
at a party.
Flexolite paddle while you're
Yeah,
at it.
you got
I like
25K
the
for
fake
that.
magazines, like the Fortune magazine, the Playboy's good. The Jenny scrapbook would be, the original scrapbook would be
Great one.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then obviously the shrimp boat.
I can't
I don't know where
believe
I'd put it.
I can't believe you didn't pick the mud-caked Nike Cortez. You love a pair of Nike
Oh, those,
Cortez.
yeah, all right, that's the winner.
How is your Mao memorabilia room going?
That would be my first one. All right, we're almost done. The Coach Finstock Award Best Life Lesson. You can believe in destiny and luck? See, I got profound. You guys didn't expect that one.
No, you leaned forward and everyone thought you were going to make another premature
yeah, I know.
ejaculation joke.
I thought one more was coming. Yeah.
He's gonna do it again, Jim.
He's not gonna leave it on the table, Jim.
Who wins the movie?
Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
You guys agree with Hanks? Yeah. That's it. We're out of categories. This was great. It was good to be in DC. I promise we're going to come back. We love DC. It's really fun to come back. I don't know what the next movie will be, but we'll be back. This has always been, for me, a fun spot. Did a couple book tours here. We had great showings, and this was a great showing as well. So thanks for coming. On behalf of these wacky three and the Rubin family, thanks for coming.
Thanks so much for coming.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.